These are some Dinar Guru updates, starting off with Militiaman. Says they're not giving a whole lot of information when it comes to the revaluation of the currency. They can't do that, but they sure can give you a heads up. They can do it with quiet tones, and I think that's the tell sign. The CBI needs to peg the new digital dinar to the Arab accounting dinar without sounding like a revaluation bomb, because central banks can't talk to you about that stuff. They can't lead people on, and they can't tell people what's truly happening. However, what we're bringing tells us there is something going on. Sampson has an article quote, Al-Sudani affirms from Najaf, NAJAF, we are proceeding with the path of reconstruction and development. There will be no return to chaos and disorder. All right, Fanulu says, I've been told that we will see a rate changing from possible $3.80 plus. On the upscale, they could sustain $4.80 with ease, but should test the waters first. At any rate, they would likely come out as the premier currency of the world and higher than Kuwait. Iraq will be in need of monstrous amounts of infrastructure supplies, which they will import, and these supplies are very expensive, so they will want the dinar as strong as reasonably possible. They paid off almost all their foreign debt, so the need for the cheap dinar is gone, and they are not an export country except for oil, and OPEC requires that oil be sold and bought in USD. Walking Stick says the budget of 26 was voted on in 25. We'll see the new exchange rate in 26 budget and in the 25 budget. You haven't seen the 25 budget because they don't want you to see it. It's that simple. Why? Because it has a new rate. Frank 26 says the younger Iraqi generation is at least 20 years behind. They have never seen coins. They have never seen lower notes. They've never seen a monetary reform. They have never had a government that actually is not corrupt. All of this is new for them. That's why the exposure of the new exchange rate, the lower notes, has to be done very carefully, sensitively. I don't care how long it takes, I care for it to come out perfectly. It cannot be done incorrectly. As much as I am waiting, I'm also seeing the reality of this waiting. It is so close. All right, Sandy Ingram, Central Bank of Iraq signed a cooperation agreement with the National Bank of Kuwait. What makes this agreement important is the National Bank of Kuwait agreed to help the CBI to develop its banking practices and training. This is excellent news because the Kuwait dinar is worth $3.61. It is the highest value currency against the US dollar in the world. All right, Militiaman says the CBI basically got the green light, and we don't know what day and time, but the bottom line is their readiness is the main thing. They're capable of something happening. As far as I'm concerned, it could happen at any time. New digital technologies are fast and furious. They happen just like that. And if you remember back to the 1450 to 1310, what did a lock do? Effective immediately. I would expect something similar. Sampson has an article quote, wars have hampered it, a proposal to establish a sovereign wealth fund for Iraq and invest it in development projects. All right, Frank 26, the banks now know what's going on. They're preparing you, and they're no longer lying to you. The smaller banks are still ignorant. The bigger ones, they seem to know a little bit more. Every now and then you get fortunate, you get blessed with a great bank dinar encounter. And lastly, Mountain Goat says we should see some movement on the project to remove the zeros this month. Will Iraq begin the swap out of the 3-0 notes for the lower denominations soon? We can read again in the news the lack of liquidity in the banks, that nearly 90% of issued dinars are outside of the banking system still. And I was told by my CBI contact that by removing the zeros should bring most of this currency into the banks. I was also told there will be incentive to do so. We were told in the news from the CBI in connection with the article about removing the zeros that this issue of lack of liquidity would be resolved soon, And this was their words, not mine.